Today I wanted to talk about creating change or making change in a, not for oneself, because that's something I would want to talk about some other time, but it's very different on how you would maybe create change for yourself and the control you have over that. And what I want to kind of work out today and discuss some ideas about are the I guess the problems and issues and things you run into when you're trying to create change in the structure of a society or a community, either small or large, and how difficult that can be. And this has kind of been brought on by the 2 cent rant about Lethbridge, Protest City. So in there it was much more lighthearted, I guess, and like it just the fact that I guess we're getting to jump off of that, then getting to the fact that what are you doing by protesting some of these things, right? What is it that you are accomplishing other than being seen and other than feeling like you're doing something, when really I don't think you're doing anything. Unfortunately, there's been the rise of like the protest, and I think a lot of the time, especially in the US and Canada, for bigger things, and that there's things that should be big, and sometimes things that are small, that it's like protesting in front of the police station about the officer who like ran over the deer. Like, yeah, that was messed up, and like people having a voice and having a response to that and being heard is genuine, and like I respect that, and I am on that side of things too. I just don't see the purpose in protesting in front of the police station. Like, again, the police knew the issue. They were aware of it before the protest even happened. They addressed it before it even happened. They knew that the public was upset about it because the video got out there. It was all online. There's responses. People are writing stuff on message boards, and like I think from one of the local newspapers and stuff on their site. So they already knew the public response. Going out there in person, I really don't think it accomplished anything. And then in some cases, again, it's about showing support maybe for your community. So when we have like groups that may be under the umbrella of like white nationalists or things of that nature, and people, and they're taking to the streets to say we don't want more immigrants here, well then yeah, I'm glad that there's a response from our community saying like, no, we don't support that message, not at all. Like, immigrants are welcome, blah blah blah, we want to show support for them. I mean, if one group is taking to the streets to wave signs around and walk and peaceful protest and stuff, and the other group does the same as a response, to me there's a little more purpose in that, but only to tell the community what we actually value or what we think, or maybe outnumbering those people and showing support for these targeted groups. That makes sense to me. I still don't think it changes anything. You're not changing a policy or anything like that. I don't think that's the purpose, and it would be ineffective. But I mean, there's larger things too, and it's just like, there's so many ways for you to have your voice heard now, and that is one way that people have been using for a while, and it's been more effective in the past, and I think it is now. And also, again, I think people are just doing it to do it and be like, I did something, look at me, I went out there and I did this. And it's like, yeah, but you didn't do anything. You just walked with some signs, and then you got to go home and feel good about yourself, and nothing changed or happened. It's obviously very situational, but I just see it a lot, and especially in Lethbridge now. It's just so weird. But I think things, you know, had more of a purpose when people were willing to sacrifice. So when you had things like the Stonewall Riots, when you had, like, you know, 1992, like Rodney King and like all this other stuff, that is people wanting to, I mean, there's riots going on, right? And there are now too in the present day, just not here, not in the US and Canada, that are big riots. Like, we riot over our hockey teams losing a Stanley Cup. right? But we're not rioting and putting ourselves in a position of sacrificing our freedom to make a point that we will not stand for certain injustices. I think a lot of the people right now that are doing these things of like protesting and being out there in the public wouldn't ever take it to that level. I think they're doing it, or they're more visible right now, from what I see, than people who actually have something to lose. They're not taking to the streets right now because they don't have a need to, because right now, just in recent times with what I'm talking about, there hasn't been a purpose in doing that. There hasn't been like, yeah, we have this really big issue we need to talk about. Like, there's tons of issues there, but I mean, maybe it's, you know, exhausting. Maybe it's the fact they know it's not going to make a difference, or people have done stuff. Like, I'm in this context of my city and my country right now and stuff, but obviously I get a lot of information as to what's happening in the US as well. So yeah, there's obviously a lot going on there that would be meaningful to discuss in this way, to protest, to show support, to educate, to show the government your distaste for what's happening, that you won't stand for injustices, things like that. And obviously in other parts of the world, there's tons of that going on too. Central America, South America, tons of places where things are happening because they need to, and they are putting their lives on the line, like, and really sacrificing themselves because they don't feel like they have any other option. The stuff that we do here, it's ineffective because no one's desperate for change, because it's not something that needs to change. You're just like, hey, these people have an opinion and they don't want immigrants, and we need to tell them that we like them. Yeah, like, I stand with that message too. Don't get me twisted, like, legit, like that, like I said, to show support for your community and stuff like that, that part of it I get. Great, good stuff. But taking the streets about it and protesting these things are just silly. I don't know how we create change, like, in this broader spectrum sometimes. Like I said, I think there's been eras in history, and in certain contexts and cultures and whatever, where taking to the streets or rioting or doing whatever was effective to get a point across, to raise awareness, to fight back, figuratively and literally at times, with those that are oppressing you, which could have been the police force, municipal government, state government, federal government. I think there have been times, for sure, where that was effective. Just don't think it is right now in the way that we're doing it a lot of the time. I don't think it's for the right reasons either. And like, I wouldn't, like, I'm not in a position where I feel like I am being oppressed and held down, and like I can't, like, I don't feel right now that I need to do that for myself. And if I did feel that, I mean, I don't know what I would do. I don't know if I would want to make those sacrifices or not. So I'm not trying to like raise myself up and say I would do that. Like, no, I just don't understand the point in doing a lot of what we're doing right now. I mean, like the things like in Lethbridge or other places. Yeah, I don't get it. And I don't, like I said, there's a lot of ways to affect change, to create change and stuff like that. I mean, I think it was probably, I don't know if it's more difficult now than it used to be. Maybe, depends on the change you want to make, right? Because a lot of changes are made and it's easy because a lot of people want those changes, and so there's a majority there, and then it's fine. But especially in the time of Trump and stuff right now too, like, there's a lot of changes that people want to see made, but not enough. And there's just a certain amount of power structure and stuff there where it's just not working, and there's a majority of people who don't want those changes. So how can those changes get made? I don't know. I don't know how we do that. I think what's really effective about things like protesting and riots, or what can be effective, is this notion that you can't change the system within the system. So that sometimes, depending again on context, it's like, hey, we got to do the paperwork. We really got to we got to fight their battle in their arena. That's the only way. We need to do this like in this legal way and very systematic, and through all these legislature, whatever, all this stuff. Sometimes that's the only way it can happen, but I mean, other times, and then maybe it's a grandiose romantic idea that no, other times that's not how it works. Like other times you have to do something drastic. Like I said, I think those things like previously, and I'm thinking of US history, and I'm sure if I actually did research or knew enough about Canadian history, there'd be some things in there too. Definitely a lot in world history, but just things where it was like, yeah, the Stonewall Riots happened, and there was change that happened there. There was awareness, there was education through, you could say through violence or through aggression or what have you. But statements were made, and we still see the effects of that today. Good changes that were made. So, I mean, that is the, I think there is value in creating a public conversation through protest, and having that right to do so is really important. And I know, you know, there are places like in Quebec and stuff where they were trying to limit student bodies and things like that years ago, and I'm sure that happens elsewhere too, where like gathering a certain amount of people in a certain area for certain purposes is going to be illegal, and you can be arrested, and like there's an element of danger to public safety. There's all that stuff. But again, if you're cornered, if you can't breathe, if you're, you know, trapped and you feel like you don't have any other options, that's when those things become, I think, necessary. I was going to say appealing. I don't think they're appealing. I don't think anyone wants to go and do that. And I mean the real, like, protesting, the real riots, the real taking to the streets. I don't think that's like, oh, I want to go do that today. That's how I want to fight this battle. Like, no, you'd rather have someone listen to you. You'd rather have your government listen to you and understand you. But that's not an option. They've tried that. It hasn't worked. So then they're left with not much else, and that's the leftover option that gets chosen, and at times it can be effective. But Lethbridge, protest city. Yeah, and it's not just here, obviously. I just find it humorous. It's just a pat on the back for people who don't even need it. It's something else.